Okay, well, I figured this could be an interesting video to discuss, as there has been some controversy involving a prank call that happened on draft weekend. So, Shedeur Sanders, very famously at this point, had one of the all-time draft falls. Everybody thought he was going to go at some point in the first round. He falls all the way to round 5. Well, in the middle of that, he did ultimately get a call from somebody. It just wasn't a NFL team. In fact, I'll play a quick clip from the whole incident right here.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man. We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
It's ain't gonna be nothing there.
Hey, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man. Sorry about that.
And right off the bat, you really can't help but feel for Shedeur Sanders, who's already in the mix of what's had to be a tailspin and really a very tough weekend for him, going through all of that of, thinking you're going to get drafted in the first round and falling, and then to have kind of your hopes get brought up only to realize it was a prank and have them, shattered right there. Also, when he gets the call, now he can't be fully sure that it's an NFL team, so he doesn't fully get that moment of celebration until a little bit later when he can fully confirm that it happened. He actually posted his reaction to when he got drafted, and you can see the real moment of relief was when it was announced on television, because then it was officially confirmed, even though he had talked to a dozen people at that point. But here's the thing. While the prank call definitely not cool, this is not the first time that this has happened. In fact, there's actually starting to become a history of this kind of thing happening. Last year, it was a bit of a story when Cooper DeJean was prank called, and he was actually prank called a ton. There was one that there was a clip and it kind of went viral, but it actually had happened. He said like over 20 times it had happened, to the point that when the Eagles called him, he didn't even pick up the phone because he was just assuming it was another prank call. So they had to call his agent, and the agent then gave the phone to Cooper DeJean, and that's when they did everything they did everything through that. And that's also when you got to feel bad for, because he was someone who was supposed to be a second rounder that could maybe get into the first round. He gets called during the first round, and so he's thinking like, oh, am I actually a first rounder? But no, he was a second rounder. Worked out all right for him, right? He's doing okay now as a Super Bowl hero, but still. But in fact, Shedeur Sanders was not the only person who got prank called this weekend. Tyler Warren was prank called. Chase Lunt, I'm not sure exactly how you say his name. He was the Bills' 6th round pick, and when he got the call saying that he had been drafted, he thought it was a prank call, because he had gotten several prank calls before, which is kind of crazy for like a guy who's maybe not even going to get drafted to prank call him. Like, that really sucks. Thankfully, he did in fact get drafted, because it would have really been awful if he did not. But for Shedeur Sanders, this is different for 2 reasons, and he's getting extra attention for 2 reasons. One, it's on video, right? That's a factor, so I guess 3 different reasons. Number 2 is just because Shedeur Sanders had this sort of famous fall, so it's become it's a story attached to a much larger story. And 3 is how this prank call ended up happening. Because for these other players, well, I can't confirm exactly how it happened. It appears as though, at least for some of them, they had just their phone that they gave that number to, the NFL teams. So like, for example, if I was going to be drafted, I would give just my own cell phone number to the teams. But then there could be, plenty of people who have my number, or maybe have a way to get my number. And because of that, then they're the ones who make the prank call, and then it gets out, and a lot more prank calls can happen, things like that. However, for Shedeur Sanders, an investigation got launched because for him, he had a specific phone number that was only going to be for the draft. At first, I just assumed because he has money that he bought a phone just strictly for this purpose, but apparently he had a phone sent to him. I'm not sure if it was through the NFL themselves, if they send phones to the top prospects available, or if it was just through some sort of promotion. But ultimately, he had his own cell phone, and the only number he gave that phone number to was the NFL for the draft purpose. That phone's sole purpose was going to be for the draft. And again, for some of these other instances, it's possible those players did something similar, and then I don't know exactly what's going on there. But at least in this instance, we know for sure that that is what happened. So then the NFL had to ask, well, wait a second. If only the NFL had this number, how did the prank call ultimately happen? It had to have been from someone in the NFL itself, and it kind of was. So the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons is named Jeff Ulbrich. If you remember him, he was the interim head coach for the New York Jets last season. His son, Jax, somehow got a hold of the list of numbers to call and found Shedeur Sanders. They claim it was just sort of an accident where he just happened to be looking at some sort of device that just happened to have the page of phone numbers on there. But he decided to jot that number down and just in case something happened. From the way the phone call sounds, it appears as though it was not the first round that he had made this call, so it might have even been a spur-of-the-moment thing that him and his friends decided to do, but ultimately that is how they got the number, and then they decided to have the prank call to pretend to be the Saints, which is kind of funny that Falcons defensive coordinator's son is pretending to be the New Orleans Saints, right, because of the rivalry there. But he ultimately, calls, says, yes, you're about to be drafted, but then hangs up. The Atlanta Falcons came out with, once it got revealed that it was, in fact, Jax who did this, which wasn't that difficult because there was a video posted showing it, which is maybe not the smartest thing to do. I think they thought people would find it funny, I suppose. But the Atlanta Falcons then tweeted out or put out a statement saying, the Atlanta Falcons do not condone this behavior and send our sincerest apologies to Shedeur Sanders and his family, who we have been in contact with to apologize to, as well as facilitate an apology directly from Jax to the Sanders family, which I have to say, maybe don't publicly say that we're facilitating the apology. It's going to take a little bit of air out of the tires of the apology itself. Jax Ulbrich then put out a statement on his one Instagram post, which reads, on Friday night, I made a tremendous mistake. Shedeur, what I did was completely inexcusable, embarrassing, and shameful. I'm so sorry I took away from your moment. It was selfish and childish. I could never imagine getting ready to celebrate one of your greatest moments of your life, and I made a terrible mistake and messed with that moment. Thank you for accepting my call earlier today. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Interesting that he mentions that Shedeur Sanders did accept a call from him earlier, so they apparently have spoken about the situation. And I have to say, for Shedeur Sanders, who's gotten his name very much dragged through the mud this past, weekend, I thought that he handled the situation very well. His quote was, it didn't really have an impact on me because it was just like, okay, I don't feed into negativity or I don't feed into that stuff. You've seen on Deion Jr.'s YouTube video my reaction to it. I don't. It is what it is. I think, of course, it is childish. Of course, I feel like it was a childish act, but everyone does childish things here and there, which is, I think, a very cool response to this by Shedeur, right? He's still being very critical of the action, but not necessarily being very critical of the person himself, which is what we kind of need to be doing more of as a society. Be critical of actions, but not necessarily of people, which I think is cool. I do have to say, there has been a bit of an odd reaction to this. Of course, the internet is the internet, and now people are losing their minds over something like this. And listen, it was a very stupid thing for Jax Ulbrich to do. I have seen people speculate that the Falcons should be punished severely for this, even saying they should take away draft picks, even people saying they should take away premium draft picks for something like this. And as a Tampa Bay fan, I think they should just be stripped of every draft pick for the next 10 years, personally. But seriously, listen, Jax Ulbrich is, from my knowledge, I tried to do some research on this. I couldn't see anything saying that he was, so I don't believe he is an employee of the Atlanta Falcons in any way, just his dad is. And you could say, I guess the argument you can make is an employee of the Falcons was careless with the phone numbers. Because of that, someone was able to then take that phone number and commit a prank with that. So if you want, I think maybe just simply finding Jeff Ulbrich wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to do. But ultimately, everyone is fine. This was a stupid thing that happened. Shedeur is fine. It's something he shouldn't have had to go through, but we're okay. At this point, I really do think it is between Shedeur Sanders and Jax Ulbrich, and if those two guys want to get over it or if they want to hate each other, to me, I think it's kind of between them at this point. That's just how I see it. However, it should be mentioned, this kind of thing shouldn't be happening, right? And again, it seems like for some of these guys, it has nothing to do with the NFL list itself being easy to leak, or maybe it is. I don't really know exactly, but there are ways to potentially fix this as an issue. A couple ways you can do it is, instead of giving the list to everybody, like why does the defensive coordinator have the list prior to the draft? Maybe you could just send it out in an email to the GMs, like, the night before the draft, something like that, of all the phone numbers. You could also do something where you only call the agent first, let the agent take it, and if it's a prank, then they can kind of be the one to take the prank, but then if it's real, then they can give it to the player, so that way the player can confirm it that way. Or I think probably the easiest way to do this is just send out an email to everyone who might be getting drafted of the phone numbers of the NFL that the NFL might use that night. So then you could enter it into your phone. So now you can create 32 contacts, and then you get a call from the Browns. Okay, now you know it's actually the number. I think the concern that they would have is they don't want to accidentally leak NFL teams' numbers, right? What happens when someone goes undrafted and is bitter about it and then just posts those? So maybe you just have to have like burner phones for draft, which you could do. I mean, you could have phone numbers set up just for the draft night to make that work. That's possible, I suppose. But again, what if it gets leaked in the middle of the draft and then now people are calling that way? I don't know if there's a way to set up a phone number that you can only call outwards. I don't know what you can do, but it does feel like there's ways to at least mitigate this, even if you can't get rid of this entirely. But yeah, ultimately, I think that's where we leave things. I would say, hey, as a whole, don't go around pranks in general are usually, unless it's lighthearted. I don't like pranks in general. I've never liked getting pranked. I think it's annoying. But in general, maybe just if you're going to do a prank, I think kind of the golden rule is make sure that the person you're pranking will also have fun with it, right? That's usually how it goes, or at least won't be too mad once they find out it is a prank, right? Don't go around doing mean things to people. That seems simple enough. But also, Jax Ulbrich is 21 years old. I certainly did dumb things when I was 21 years old. Yes, he's old enough to know better, but he's also young enough to do something stupid. So, listen, not condoning the action, but hopefully he learns from it and doesn't do stupid things like this in the future. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.